Okay, so here we are at Blackwell. Like I told you guys, I put a different bowstring on that was about this much longer than the other one. And that's what it took to get the shape of that bow, to get the shape of the bowstring to be one, the brace of the bowstring to be one fist meal away. And you'll just see it's a nicer shape. Even the limbs themselves look more relaxed. They're in their natural relaxed position. Get used to seeing that kind of elegant shape, that kind of pattern. Go back and compare it to earlier in the video when I used the original bowstring that was on here that was too short and everything was out like this and it was stressing the bow limbs. So let's get set up here. We've got their little quiver, which I think still is fine. I'm going to reach in here and get out the arm guard. And we're going to use their finger tab. Told you I'm not in love with it, but it'll get the job done. Fine. Let's get the arm guard on next. It can be a little tricky with a coat this big because most of the time you want to slip your arm through. You don't want to be buckling and unbuckling, strapping and unstrapping all the time. Just got to work it up. Go watch my video. I'll post the link. Go watch my video on how to make your own arm guard from a warm-up sleeve used for basketball, a forearm sleeve. And you'll see that this goes a lot easier. With this forearm guard, is perfectly adequate. It's going to get the job done. It's actually really nice double-sided leather here. I think you guys saw that. Nice feel to it. So if I could put this on my sleeve, I'd have a winning combination. And we've got this little finger tab. The way finger tabs work is you slip your middle finger typically through something like this. You're going to have to bite down on this loop because you've got a little tightening button that you got to squeeze with your fingers. That's all there is to that. We'll see how well that works. Let's go get the camera set up so you can see me shoot. We're going to start you gotta be smart. It's a brand new bow and you don't know how it shoots. Even this knocking point from being an old bowstring, it's not in the right position. Start short, 10 meters to start. That bag is sitting there at 10 meters and we're gonna use the VOGTLAND shooting method, 5-step shooting method to shoot this bow. The VOGTLAND shooting method goes like this. Step 1, not knocking very far. There. Step 1. The VOGTLAND shooting method looks something like this. Step 1. Choose the gap between the knocking point of the arrow and the drawing point of your index finger. This gap under your chin determines the elevation of the arrow. The elevation of the arrow determines the range of the arrow. For a 10-meter shot, probably going to be about 4 fingers for me, 4-finger difference. So this is where I'm going to be drawing from. Already this finger tab's not holding up very well. Clear, go get them. Believe it or not, there's somebody else at the range with me today. And I'm sure they weren't expecting to have to wait for somebody to film something. This is not holding on very well. I may end up having to go get my finger guard. This simply isn't going to stay on my finger the way I want it to. And it's not tight enough right here to actually stay on. Every time I bend my finger, it starts getting loose. That's not good. I'm going to pause the camera. We're not going to use this finger guard or the finger tab. I'm going to go get my finger glove. I'll be right back. Okay, we're back with my neat shooting glove, the one that I tell you guys is the best. Even this one has to be really tight across the back. So if you have to try to take up slack on the elastic on the back with some stitches, do so. You need the whole glove to be pulling on the fingers even when your hand is extended. You want it snug and even snugger right here so that these fingers become a part of your hand, not something loose. They're not boots, they're not socks that get to fly off. All right, step number 1 of the VOGTLAND shooting method. Choose your gap between the nocking point of the arrow and the drawing point of your index finger. We're going to start with 4 fingers. Step 2, we're going to draw back and anchor under our chin. Step 3, we're going to look down the left edge of the bowstring. 4, we're going to put the tip of the arrow right smack on the target. 5, we're going to make a small motion release, as small as possible, like a compound bows release. Doink! The smaller the motion, the less air you introduce into the bowstring at the moment of release. Step 1, choose your gap. Step 2, anchor under your chin. That knock's not staying on the bowstring very well at all. Let's try again. Step 1, choose your gap. Step 2, draw back and anchor under your chin. Step 3, look down the left edge of the bowstring. 4, tip of the arrow right on the center of the target. 5, small motion release. What I saw even out of the corner of my eye was that the arrow pitched down and started to porpoise. That's a sign that my anchoring point that's a sign that the nocking point I chose on the string was too low, and I need to adjust it so that there's balance between the upper part of the bowstring and the lower part of the bowstring pulling on that knock on the arrow itself. Let's find that balance in a second shot. But first we'll let him pull his arrows because it's cold out. Clear! Okay, so let's go over what we bought for $89. We got a bow, we got limbs, we got a bowstring, all keepers. Great bow, great starter bow. Could probably even buy extra limbs for it that are different weights, so you could start off with 20, go to 22, go to 24, go to 28, go to 30, go to 35, go to 40, and keep the same riser. Everybody starts to like their riser. They like the feel. I really like this riser. It's well made and it's nice looking, and it's very nicely designed. Clear with the curved arrow shelf. That's a big plus, guys, right there. You get 8 arrows. They're curved. There's no denying it, but they shoot okay. The knocks on them, actually pretty good. I got no complaint. The quiver, perfectly adequate. You'll buy another one later on, but to start, this is great. The only thing that you'll need, the arm guard, perfectly adequate. You don't need to get another one. The only thing you're going to have to get replaced, that finger tab simply is unacceptable. It's unusable. If the minute you bend your finger, it starts loosening and starts coming off, then there's a potential that at the moment of release, the bowstring is literally going to tear that tab right off your hand, and it's going to send it flying down range. You need something stronger that's going to stay on your hand even when your hand is in an extended position. You're going to need a neat glove, N-E-E-T. Otherwise, that's it. You could buy a whole lot of bow for only $89, a whole lot of bow kit, and get started and be successful. Using a superior shooting method, you can be successful at being a newbie archer. This is Mark Vogt with VOGTLAND Outdoors. Hope you guys enjoyed this particular episode. Let me know if there's other equipment that you want me to go out and test, stuff that you've already bought, you'd like to see, what could you do with it, I'm happy to try these things. Subscribe to my channel, and we'll see you out there. Bye. Cut. Oh, I can't feel my finger. Outtakes, my fingers are frozen. Well, crap. I went all the way back home after I filmed. This is the second time that I've been here today, and my camera stopped running after a couple of minutes in, so I got to start all the way over. We were on round number 2 of doing some shooting with these curved arrows from this $89 set. So let's keep shooting at 10 meters and see how we do. Step number 1 of the 5-step method. Choose your gap. The distance between the nocking point of the arrow and the drawing point of your index finger. A 3-finger gap for 10 meters. Step 2, draw back and anchor under your chin. Step 3, look down the left edge of the bowstring. That's your rear sight. Step 4, put the tip of the arrow right on the center of the target. That's your front sight. Step 5, make a small motion release. That actually shot really well. This bow is doing really, really well. Let's shoot 3 more shots, and then we're going to try a different distance and see how it does. We know that all of these arrows are curved. This is what I've noticed with all of them. They're actually pronouncedly have a definite pronounced curve in each of them, but they still seem to be shooting okay. I'm guessing at my nocking point here, but you know, it's like a 2-finger gap here, which is pretty good. Let's set the gap, 3 fingers. Step 2, draw back and anchor under the chin. Step 3, look down the left edge of the bowstring. That's your rear sight. Step 4, put the tip of the arrow on the target, the dead center. That's your front sight. Step 5. Small motion release. Those look pretty good. Let's pause the camera. Let's shift over to what looks like 15 yards and shoot some more. All right, here we are at what looks like about 15 meters. Same bow, same arrow. Something's got to change. What changes? That gap between the nocking point of the arrow and the drawing point of your index finger. That gap changes, means the elevation changes, means the range changes. So we're going to keep everything else the same. And instead of a 3-finger gap going down all the way to 3 fingers, we're actually going to go up about a 1/2 of a finger. So now it's a 2.5-finger gap from here to here. That's going to give me a different elevation. It's going to be steeper, which means the arrow is going to go farther. Everything else stays the same with this VOGTLAND shooting method. Step 1, choose your gap. Step 2, draw back and anchor under your chin. Step 3, look down the left edge of the bowstring. That's your rear sight. Step 4, put the tip of the arrow on the center of your target. That's your front sight. Step 5. Small motion release. A 1/2 finger change was actually a little too much. It tilted the bow up, the arrow up a little too much. It shot a little too far, but it shot pretty well. And that's what we're trying to test here, guys. We're not trying to calibrate this bow just yet for the for this arrow. What we're trying to do is see how well this bow performs. Does it sound good? Is it loud? So far, not. This curve that's right here actually is is curved enough that the bowstring doesn't come back and slap the back of the limb. That's where you get most of your noise on a recurve bow, is right here. The string comes back on release and slaps the back there and right here, and actually does a pretty good job. And it seems to shoot really well. It's very smooth off of the rest. Let's try let's go back to 3 fingers and just see what happens at 15 meters. 3-finger gap. Step 1, choose your gap. Step 2, draw back and anchor under your chin. Step 3, look down the left edge of the bowstring. That's your rear sight. Step 4, put the tip of the arrow on the center of the target. That's your front sight. Step 5. Small motion release, and 3 fingers actually looks pretty good. Notice the left-right error between those two arrows is non-existent. That's what you get by anchoring under your chin instead of off to the side. By anchoring under your chin with the VOGTLAND shooting method, by anchoring under your chin and looking down the edge of the arrow over the top, using the left edge of the bowstring for your rear sight and the tip of the arrow for your front sight, you end up being so consistent. There's no left to right error that's introduced in your shot by anchoring off to the side. Watch this. If I look at you, but I anchor off to the side here, I'm immediately introducing error in my shot. I'm looking at you and my arrow's going this way. How could I possibly be accurate? But by anchoring under your chin, you're looking right over the top of the arrow, even if it's curved like this, and you're able to actually get excellent left to right accuracy and precision. Let's shoot a couple more. Step 1, choose your gap, 3 fingers. Step 2, draw back and anchor under your chin. Step 3, look down the left edge of the bowstring. 4, tip of the arrow on the target. 5, small motion release and a bullseye. Nice performance from the bow. No porpoising. I found a good spot. I'll have to mark that when I put my knocking point in, but the bow is behaving very nicely. And the 35 pounds that I'm actually pulling out to about 40, 42 if I were to test this, I can actually hold that, and even while I'm talking, I get a really good, I can still hold comfortably. I like that. $89 for the whole kit. Really about 50 bucks for the bow. I am super pleased with this. Let's go shoot at the 20-meter bag. Let's go shoot at the 20-meter bag next. Okay, here we are at 20 meters. Guys, this is a legitimate distance that you want to be good at. Let's see if I can keep arrows within a paper plate kind of distance using this $89 kit, $59 bow. And these arrows that not a single one of them is straight. Can you guys see that? Happy Sunday morning, guys. We did a little modification. We're going to continue yesterday's evaluation of this bow, but I'm using my better arrows. These are about $6 a piece. Most importantly, this nock is built a little bit wider to be able to handle that bowstring very easily. So it's going to pop off easily. The second modification that you'll see me do is that this adjusted bowstring, this is a little bit longer than the one that came with the bow, had a brass permanent knocking point on it. I took it off and I've replaced it with my adjustable knocking point. You guys are going to like this. We're going to set it. I haven't set it yet. It needs to be about 2 arrow widths above perpendicular. So if I set this bow, this arrow, to be perpendicular on the bowstring right now, right there, then I need this nock to end up being 1-2 arrow widths above. That's a little bit too, this knocking point is a little bit too high right now. So I'm going to push it down. I'm going to adjust the arrow until it's about, that's about 2 arrow shaft widths above perpendicular. This was perpendicular. This is 1 arrow shaft, 2 arrow shafts above perpendicular. So now I'm going to slide this over to take up the slack. I'm going to slide this adjustable knocking point to take up the slack. How cool is that? Now it's naturally sitting there. It's going to take a lot of effort to move this. I had to push. In normal use, drawing, releasing, drawing, releasing, drawing, releasing, this isn't going to budge. These 3 little speed buttons wrapped on that bowstring are super light, lighter than the brass, so they have less mass, not more. Plus they're adjustable, but with effort. They don't slip out of place. So let's go give this a try at 20 meters. That looks pretty close to 20 meters. Same 5-step method. We're going to use a 3-finger gap. Step 1, set your gap. Step 2, draw back and anchor under the chin. Step 3, look down the left edge of the bowstring. That's your rear peep sight, your rear sight. Step 4, put the tip of the arrow on the center of the target. That's your front sight. Step 5, small motion release. That was a perfect bullseye. Go back and play that over again. This bow does just fine. Part of an $89 kit. It's a little teeny bit curved right here, but I can live with that to get started. What you guys saw was that you can use a superior shooting method, not an inferior one, where you're empowered to actually put the tip of the arrow right smack on the center of the target at any distance and actually drill it right in with a bow that costs less than $100. I already shot at 20 meters. Let's go shoot at that other bag. That should be 30 meters. The gap on this should be about 1/2 of a finger. So let's go. Step 1 of the VOGTLAND string walking method is set your gap. Set your 20 meter gap. Step 2, adjust for the range by using your 10-meter interval gap, which is, for this bow, 1/2 a finger. To go from 20 meters to 30 meters, I need to shorten this gap by 1/2 of a finger. It's going to go from here to here to go a little bit further. So we're going to set our 20-meter gap, 3 fingers, and then we're going to make it smaller by 1/2 of a finger. Right there is my 30-meter gap. Step 2, draw back and anchor under the chin again. Step 3, look down the left edge of the bowstring. That's your rear sight. Step 4, put the tip of the arrow on the center of the target. That's your front sight. Step 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Small motion release. I think that one's 40 out there. This one wasn't 30, it was a little shy. That's why it aimed a little high. Let's go after the 40-meter target. 40-meter target, we start with a 3-finger gap and we adjust for 20 more meters distance. We go up 1/2 a finger to 30 meters, 1/2 a finger to 40. What's that? It's a 2-finger gap. Step 2, draw back and anchor under your chin. Step 3, look down the left edge of the bowstring. That's your rear sight. Step 4, put the tip of the arrow on the center of the target. That's your front sight. Step 5, small motion release. Now we've nailed one at 40 meters. What the heck? Let's try for the 70 that's out there. That's the big square one out there that's got metal all around it. I hope I don't hit the metal, guys, but let's see what it would look like. Step 1 with the shooting method and a $59 bow, a bow that costs less than $100. Start with a 20-meter gap, 3 fingers. Step 2, we're going to adjust to get all the way out to 70. That means we have to go up 1, 2 to 40, 1, 2 to 60, and another, we have to start with a 3-finger gap and then adjust to get from 20 meters to 70. That's 5 half-finger changes. That's a whole finger, and a half finger. Let me show it to you again. We start off with 3 fingers for 20 meters. We go up a whole finger. That gains us 20 more yards from 20 to 40. We go up another full finger. That gets us from 40 to 60. And then we go up 1/2 a finger more down here. That little 1/2 finger gap is a 70-meter gap. Let's see how it does. Step 1, choose your gap. The target gets smaller, guys. It's 1/7, it's 2/7 the size of what it is at 20 meters. So that's not even, that's almost 1/4 the size. I gotta get quiet for a second. Step 1, choose your gap. Step 2, draw back and anchor under the chin. 3, look down the left edge of the bowstring. 4, tip of the arrow on the center of the target. 5, I shot a little left. It's a small target. Let's try one more. Oh, I got 2 more arrows. Let's try 2. We're gonna go down a half of a finger. Why? Because that's the same as starting at 3 fingers, going up 2.5. Step 1, choose your gap. Step 2, anchor under your chin. 3, look down the left edge of the bowstring. 4, tip of the arrow on the center of the target. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Hit the target. A little bit left, but hit the target. It's 70 meters bare bow with a bow that costs less than $100. There's another thing I want to explain. How did I know my arrow was dead straight? The vast majority of people that shoot compound bows use sights. The sights are not looking at the arrow. It's looking at the target through a set of pins that aren't the arrow. When you're using Olympic recurve bows, you're using a front sight and placing it on the target. You're not looking at the arrow. But with the VOGTLAND shooting method, the front of the arrow tip itself is your front sight. So you are watching the arrow its entire flight. From the moment of release, your eye is on the tip of the arrow all the way until you land on the target. That's why it's so easy, so simple for me to tell where the arrow is going. I don't have to try to catch the arrow. I'm looking at sights, I'm looking at pins, looking at pins, looking at pins, and now I need to try to find the arrow. No, I've been looking at the arrow tip the entire time, from before I released until after it lands. Back to the video. And with $6 arrows, you guys can do this too. That should be really exciting to you guys right now. Let's do the last one and see if I can get a little bit better. Step 1, choose your gap, 1/2 finger. Step 2, draw back an anchor under your chin. 3, look down the left edge of the bowstring. 4, tip of the arrow on the target. 5, 6. Small motion release. Come with me. Let's roll this down. I'm not turning it off. You're coming with me. Let's go see how we did with this less than $100 bow. $5 arrows, shooting bare bow. At the 20-meter target, bullseye. 20 meters, bullseye. So far, so good. At what I thought was a 30-meter target, but it actually turns out to be 27. Here's the 30-meter mark. So if I was aiming for 30, if my gap was set, my elevation was set for 30, and I'm really at about 26, what should you expect? Arrow went high. Exactly what you should expect. Let's go look at 40. 40 looks like it actually was an accurate gap. An accurate distance, rather. Here's 40. Here's 40. And there's my 40-yard first shot with that bow. Nice arrows. Look at the distance. Middle of the bag. I pulled it a little bit to the right. Why? It's 27 degrees. That's why. That's a damn good shot. Bare bow at 40 meters with a less than $100 bow, guys. You should be excited. Now let's go look at the 70. Actually, it looks like 60. It's hard to tell. Here's 60 right here. It's 61, 62 meters. And I was shooting at a diagonal from over there. So it's really closer to about 63 or 64, maybe even 65. So I should have been expecting it to probably shoot a little on the high side because I was aiming for 70. My gap was set, my elevation was set for 70, but it's really only about 65, 64 meters. Sure enough, the very first shot, I pulled it to the left, but it shot just a little high of center. And this one shot low. I might have been mentally compensating. I might have been mentally not aiming at the dead center right here. I might have been actually aiming a little bit lower. You sometimes find yourself doing that. But the point is, guys, we took a bow that cost less than $100 and actually used a superior shooting method to find ourselves shooting successfully at 20 meters, 30 meters, 40 meters, and yes, you guessed it, even 70 meters in the freezing cold with what people would call inferior equipment. So what did you learn from this? What's the real important takeaway that you keep hearing me harp on? Guys, it's not really about the equipment cost. It's about the shooting method. And you can take perfectly mediocre by everybody else's standards, entry-level equipment, and use a superior shooting method and get outstanding results. I want that to excite all you newbie archers. And for those of you that already have expensive equipment, high-end equipment, and you're not getting the kind of performance, the kind of results that you wanted, maybe you need to consider a different shooting method. Imagine if you were practicing with your cool equipment, consistent equipment, high-end equipment, you were practicing a superior shooting method. Imagine the possibilities, what you'd be able to produce. This is just me, an old guy, a data scientist with bummer equipment on a freezing cold day, and I'm hitting 65 meter targets. Ask yourself if you're doing that, shooting bare bow. If you could do that on your first try on film, something to think about. All right, cut. All right, we've already shot at 20, at 30, at 40, and at 65, let's call it 70 meters. Since we're really putting this less than $100 entry-level bow through its paces, why not see if we can shoot at 100? Oh. My hand's getting too cold. Can't even feel my fingertips right now. Oh, I think I hit wood on the bottom of the target. It was dead straight. We're going to go look at that one. Perfectly centered. Last one. I thought I heard the sound of wood. And the only piece of wood that's dead center on the target is a little cross piece that's on the bottom. We'll see. 0 for 4. Got it. Let's go look. Remember, guys, I haven't warmed up yet at all. This is literally, that's the second round of arrows that I'm shooting today. It's about 24 degrees out. The only thing, I'm holding on to cold wood with a leather glove, so you can tell my fingertips are frozen right now. Here we are at the 40. Here we are at the 50. Here we are at the 60. Still wondering where that 6th arrow is. I wonder if I just left it at home and thought I brought 6. Here's 70. Now some of my arrows are going to be short. Cold, bad release. Here we are at 80. And let's look and see where 90 meters went, guys. Shooting bare bow. 2 of them, 80, 85, 90. The first 2, I simply pulled to the right at about 85, 86 yards. But look at the other 2, guys. That one that I said missed, it landed dead center and just a foot underneath the target. And one of them, I got on the target at 90 meters. That's 100 yards. That's way the hell over there, shooting bare bow. And the most important takeaway, guys, is where was I aiming? I was putting the tip of the arrow right there. When I was looking down the shaft, let's grab some of these. When I was looking down the arrow shaft at the target way off yonder, this is what I was looking at. I was looking like this. That's where I was placing it. I wasn't placing it in some silly spot out in outer space somewhere and then hoping that I was going to become one with the target. My center, my arrow was right like that as I looked down it. That's what I want you guys to take away. Superior shooting method can make up for a whole lot of apparent mediocrity in the equipment itself. I'm actually most proud of that particular one right there, the miss, believe it or not, because my left to right release was perfect across 100 yards. There was zero left to right error, all because of the small motion release and because my hand was anchored firmly on my chin instead of floating out alongside my cheek somewhere, firmly anchored. So my body became a rigid framework capable of high precision. Doink, small motion release. Think about that. Outtakes. Let's go look at these arrows. They were shooting a couple of them low, and I was kind of wondering why. Well, it turns out there's my 20-meter mark, and there's the bag. And if I go off to the side, here's 20 meters, guys. This thing's a full 1, 2, 3, 4. It's at 25 meters. And I was still shooting. Maybe I was compensating on some of these. I got a nice group of 3, but those 2 that shot low, it's perfectly understandable. I was using a 20-meter gap on a bag that's at 25 meters. I think I'm going to move the bag up to 20 and we're going to shoot one more time. Let's go do it. Okay, now I'm perfectly aligned the face of the bag with the 20-meter mark. Let's go down and shoot. Oofta, it's getting cold, guys. Did I say oofta? Welcome to Minnesota. Oh, it is so hard to pull a bowstring back when it's 25 degrees outside. Your fingers get frozen and it hurts. That even the vibration, the impact of the bowstring just hurts your fingers. Well, let's put a couple arrows in the dead center and see how we do. Step 1, choose your gap. 3 fingers. Step 2, draw back and anchor under your chin. 3, center it. Step 3, look down the left edge of the bowstring. That's your rear sight. Step 4, tip of the arrow on the target. That's your front sight. Step 5, bullseye. Nothing wrong with that. This bow shoots nice. Let's do another one and see if I can knock it in the same place. Step 1, choose your gap. Step 2, anchor under your chin. 3, look down the left edge of the bowstring. That's your sight, your rear sight. Step 4, tip of the arrow right on the reds. That's your front sight. Step 5, near bullseye. That did exactly what it was supposed to do. Gosh. And it was quiet. Yeah, I'm very pleased. Hope you guys liked the video. Whew, cut. But what I want you to see is the others. The 20 meters. The 20 meters. If you bought a bow for the whole kit for $89 and you drilled those 2 shots into the center of the bag, let me ask you an important question. Looking at those, would you be embarrassed like you didn't know how to shoot? Would you be embarrassed of your bow, of your arrows, of your rest of your equipment? What's the #1 secret you just learned? Is being able to shoot well at an archery range always dependent on how much money you spend on the bow, on the equipment? Not really, guys. Your ability to actually shoot well is really more dependent on are you or are you not using the superior shooting method, or are you using an inferior shooting method? Something to think about.